every 4 years it comes along and splashes joy, spectacle and drama all over the globe. Mondiale, La Coupe du Monde, Das Weltmeisterschaft.
You mean the World Cup, Richard?
Yes, Peter, I do. Exotic players from far-off lands, passionate fans, thundering free kicks.
Oh, it's in!
Unbelievable saves.
And most of all, my goal against Trinidad and Tobago.
It's a crouch!
No, Peter. Fluky goals are not what we really remember.
Well, I do. It was the Nuremberg Frankenstadium in the 83rd minute. The ball came over from Bex.
Thank you, Peter. But what we really remember are the World Cup shocks.
Terrible, Jaron. This is awful. This is awful.
For the next 2 hours, you're going to be watching our personal list of the most jaw-dropping moments the World Cup has ever witnessed.
Even Gordon Ramsay watching it would go, "That's too much swearing."
It's kicking off.
They were pure evil.
Has there been a match like this?
This is the ultimate countdown of cock-ups.
It was one of those, let out a little bit of wee moments.
And cards.
Has the referee got a grip of this game?
He got a straight red for that.
There'll be misdemeanours.
Germans sometimes need to get a sense of humour.
And missed penalties.
He's cost us the World Cup, hasn't he?
That's a shocker.
To Argentina as well.
Broken hearts.
I never knew that it would go that bad.
And broken faces.
You just want to whack him.
We'll see the knockouts.
That was unbelievable what he's just done.
And the walkouts.
Got no comment on that.
And go from the sublime
A wonderful goal!
You got to hold and give.
to the ridiculous.
And that is plain stupidity.
Welcome to our 50 greatest World Cup shocks.
50. I better put the kettle on.
When it comes to penalty shootouts, the Germans are clearly die Obermasters. Played for, won for. Lucky? 9. Vorsprung durch Technik, Jens? In 2006, Jens Lehmann wasn't going to rely on mere statistics in a quarter-final shootout against Argentina. Instead, he used a shockingly sneaky tactic. Rather than follow the theory favoured by English goalies, fall over as the ball flies past you, he'd get organised, get serious and get efficient.
That's very German.
With goalkeeping coach Andreas Köpke, he'd written a list of where the Argentines put their penalties and kept it tucked in his sock.
I love the idea of Lehmann having notes upon his person during the game in case of the eventuality of penalties. Just ready for any possible scenario. There's been a pitch invasion. What do? I will consult my notes.
Lehmann picked the right direction for every penalty, saving from Roberto Ayala.
Saved by Lehmann!
Then, for the crucial kick, up stepped Esteban Cambiasso.
Lehmann very ostensibly takes out a note from his shin pad and has a look. And at that moment, Cambiasso realised that Lehmann has some sort of information of where he's likely to shoot.
How off-putting is that? It's like, when someone passes a note about you and you think, what's he saying? What does it say about me? You get really self-conscious.
Will you stick with your regular choice or will you change it because you know that the goalkeeper knows where your regular choice is?
It was the ultimate act of kidology.
It's Germany!
Cambiasso's name wasn't on his list.
Jens Lehmann is the hero and Germany are into the last 4.
He saved the pen, sparking scenes of mass German jubilation. Jens joined in too, efficiently, coldly, ruthlessly.
You expect the Germans to give you a good old kicking, but the last thing you expect from the Brazilians is dirty play.
But in USA 94, against America, on Independence Day no less, one Brazilian misunderstood what the Constitution says about the right to bear arms.
Leonardo foul was awful. He just jams his elbow back. Awful. Ramos falls onto the ground and then sort of jerks again. Someone's trouble where they're sort of jerking. It's like a shock.
When you get a player like Leonardo, whack in the face, it's just shocking. It was the last thing everyone expected.
No, the last thing we expected was for the commentating Chris Waddle to defend it.
I think that's a very bad decision by the referee.
Are you sure, Chris?
Did he mean to do it? You know, it's hard to say, isn't it?
Really?
I quite laughed at it. I thought it was quite funny because I used to do that myself when we used to get kicked. Yeah, a little bit of play acting there involved maybe as well.
Yeah, get up, you big baby.
The poor fella broke in his jaw. It was horrendous.
Yeah, and he answered him. Sorry, I'll make an apology. He does deserve to go.
Well spotted, Chris. Leonardo was fined £5,000 and banned for 4 games. Tab Ramos spent 3 months in hospital with a fractured skull. Chris Waddle invested in a guide dog. Scoring a goal at the World Cup must be an incredible feeling.
Richard.
I can only imagine what it must feel like.
No, I once scored.
It must be a truly indescribable feeling.
Well, I can tell you what it's like. It was quite...
Suppose I'll never know. Sorry, Pete, what were you saying? It was a shock to see Saudi Arabia at their first World Cup in 1994. It was even more of a shock to see them score. But it was an earth-shattering, seismic shock when midfielder Said Al-Warren scored the best goal of the tournament.
This is Al-Warren, a good run, good strong run, still in possession. Al-Warren, still there. They've scored again. Saudi Arabia, 1-up against Belgium. Just 5 minutes gone, and it's Said Al-Warren, the number 10.
It was incredible. It was a new arrival. He'd launched himself on the world scene, and I haven't heard of him since.
He went home a hero and enjoyed his newfound status a little too much. After being caught drinking with a Western woman, he was jailed for 6 months.
From scoring one of the top 10 goals of all time in a World Cup to being banged up. Sad times.
The prison team were happy, though.
You're unbelievable.
As much a part of the rich tapestry of the World Cup as sticker books and England losing on penalties are the shocking hairstyles that grace the world stage every 4 years.
It's amazing how footballers do tend to take the World Cup as their stage where they really want to kind of showcase some of the more bizarre haircuts.
There was Ronaldo's famous power cut, named after the fact that there'd been one in the barbers when he was having it done. In the mysterious case of Bulgarian keeper Boris Mikhailov, hair has even appeared from nowhere. There you see it in 1994, there you don't in 1986. And who could forget the legendary mullet of Chris Waddle?
The best football haircut ever of all time, I'll stand by it, is the Waddler. It is amazing.
It's kind of like a hairy spoiler. It's hairy and it spoils your head completely.
Shocking hair had been an individual thing. That is until Romania decided to indulge in a bit of team blonding.
I thought it was amazing when the Romanian team came out with all bleached hair. I mean, that obviously that kind of collective spirit of wanting to just, you know, make a real statement. From a hairdresser's point of view, that was fantastic.
You can only get away with doing stuff like that if you're actually good. If you then go out in the second round, you look like an idiot, don't you?
Pete, what are you doing?
Trying to get the telly to work. I want to see Owen's goal.
He's gone past one.
He's running so fast that I'm thinking he's going to lose it.
Just the pace. Shrugging off challenges.
Goes round another. Takes the strike. I'm thinking it's going to go wide.
When England play Argentina, we expect a small, brilliant player to run through and score an amazing goal. And it happened in 1998. But this time, they got a taste of their own medicine.
Kind of knew that He was a pretty special player. But even then, never expected him to score a goal that good. And I don't think Argentina expected him to score a goal that good.
It's got back well. Now, can Beckham set England moving? This is Owen. Taken in his stride. Chamot trying not to bring him down. It's still Michael Owen! He scored a wonderful goal! Is there nothing beyond this 18-year-old? Everyone off the bench. And what a moment for the teenager. And for England.
You know, for an 18-year-old lad to have so much composure right at that final moment, it was like he was let loose in the playground. You know, and he went out there and just absolutely stamped himself right on the World Cup scene with an unbelievable goal.
South Korea, 2002, July. Average temperature 26 degrees, humidity 75%. Large Spanish man in polyester shirt. Yes, shocking moment number 45 is Jose Antonio Camacho and his ridiculously sweaty pits.
It's very sad that we remember him for his personal hygiene issues rather than anything else he did in the game.
This guy comes out and he wears everyday clothing. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't dress for the weather at all. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't cold. Yeah, he knew that. The weatherman didn't lie. Yeah.
I went for short-sleeved and cotton, personally.
You want a very nice shirt, but more important than the shirt, you know, your missus would go, have you got everything? You know, a cool shirt, that hot climate. Have you got your deodorant? You know, didn't any of the players say, hey, Camacho, have you tried this? It's called deodorant. Just give it a go. Just please give it a go.
There was a lot going on under that armpit, do you know what I mean? And I'm thinking to myself, that's not going to help the team for confidence, is it?
I mean, any time he put his hands up to demonstrate, they must be going, oh, crikey. You know, he'd switch off.
Camacho there drying his armpits whilst appealing.
The Roy Keane story was huge. Do you know, Roy Keane does what Roy Keane wants to do and won't be told by anybody.
And in 2002, what Irish captain and talisman Roy Keane wanted to do was get kicked out of the Irish World Cup squad for throwing a giant strop.
It definitely shocked me when I heard the news. It really, really surprised me.
That was ludicrous, because the press went mental and they were like, oh, Roy Keane's ruined Ireland's chances. What? Like their chances of getting knocked out in the first round, which is what's going to happen.
Keane, unhappy with poor facilities for the squad, sought out manager Mick McCarthy for a quiet word. Unfortunately, it was the C word.
I will not tolerate the level of abuse that was thrown at me, so I have sent him home.
He was upset about the dry cleaning standards of the kit, and then he wasn't happy that the team had only eaten cheese sandwiches on the flight. He was saying that was not a diet for a World Cup team.
Got no comment on that.
It was Ireland. The preparations were never great, in all honesty. You know, in 1988 European Championships, we ended up in a hotel that had a nudist colony attached to it.
Ireland made it to the last 16 without Roy, who'd flown home and spent the rest of the tournament walking his dogs.
Roy Keane's dog must be the fittest dog in the world. How many walks does that dog go on? Whenever there's a news flash about Roy Keane, you know he's out walking that poor dog.
Every sort of East End gangster you see, they always get dogs. Every mental person has a dog. It just kind of reflects them. You go to any rough estate in Britain, there's always a dog barking outside a boarded up house, and I think Keane's got that mentality. He's like the Phil Mitchell of football. I'm not mad enough, so I'll get 2 dogs that could kill you.
That's what my mum and dad do when they have an argument. My dad goes and walks the dog. I'm not suggesting that him and Mick McCarthy were indulging in that kind of a relationship. Sexual. Actually, my parents isn't probably a sexual relationship now. They're in their 70s.
There are certain things that make England great, like fish and chips,
cream teas,
cricket,
the Queen,
brown sauce,
the M6,
high rates of teenage pregnancy,
beer bellies.
All great things, Pete, but there's nothing more English than losing on penalties.
When it goes to penalties, what happens to England?
You start packing the suitcase.
But it wasn't always thus. At the end of extra time in their semi-final against Germany in 1990, England were heading into what was for them uncharted football territory.
It was signalled as a new era. We're in penalties, and it was actually quite exciting.
It was quite a new situation for us, but we had prepared for it.
Gary Lineker is now asked to beat the goalkeeper, and does.
England's first ever shootout was going well.
Scores.
This penalty lot was a doddle.
Goalkeepers are making every effort to save these.
Plus, we had the best goalkeeper in the world, probably.
Peter was 40 then. You know, and he had a great World Cup. He kept us in a lot of times.
As a goalkeeper, I think you just try and stay calm. And you really just hope that your luck's in.
But because there'd been extra time, it was past 10 and normally he'd have been tucked up in bed. He knew what to do, he just couldn't quite do it anymore. Plus, he was up against Das Oberpenalty-Maschinen.
The Germans so ruthless. Yes, yes, yes.
All of their penalties were perfect.
It's just like, what is this penalty machine?
With the score level at 3 penalties each, up next was Stuart Pearce, regular taker and scorer for his club. Pearce had a thunderous shot, and the only thing at risk was the net.
If there's one person you would bet your life on would be able to pull it out the bag for England.
Can he do it for England? He can't! The opener has made a save.
Everyone was very shocked when Psycho missed, even himself. He probably didn't imagine he was going to miss.
But worse was to follow.
That means that England have to score the next one to stay in it.
But everything was okay, because up next was Chris Waddle, and he was clearly relishing the prospect.
His shoulders are hunched, he's not even focused, he's not looking at the goal, he looked dejected.
He didn't half give it some welly, though.
It wasn't even just close, was it? Skied it over the bar.
He should never have had his hair cut.
Love Chris Waddle. And when he smashed that over the bar, you feel the whole nation sort of all burst into tears at the same time. It's dreadful.
Most players, I don't care what they say, most players want someone else to miss. And I know that a lot of players where you come on, you put your arm on your head, and you really thinking, thank God it wasn't me. If you know that you're going to get a pizza advert out of it, maybe, yeah.
Yes, whilst we were all too upset even to eat, Mrs. Waddle and Pearce cashed in with an advert.
Pan pizzas, unless I'm mistaken.
Taking the pizza out of all of us. In 1994, mild-mannered Gianfranco Zola was stunned when Mexican referee Brizio Carter sent him off just 7 minutes into his World Cup debut.
And it's a red card.
It was a ridiculous decision by the referee, and I know that these happen to every country, but that one really sticks in the mind.
Would have to say that I think a red card is harsh.
I think, you know, he took it quite well, considering.
He literally collapses when he sees what's happened.
He's on his knees, sort of holding his chest like a baby. He gets even more sort of petulant and he starts trying to pull in the advertising hoarding. Verge of tears.
But while there was pain for Zola, Nigeria's Sunday Olasey seemed overjoyed with his teammates' apparent injury. In 1994, England didn't qualify for the World Cup.
Everything going wrong.
I didn't know who to support.
I did.
Who?
Anyone who was playing Germany.
That seems right, doesn't it? You can never support the Germans. Ever.
So when Germany faced Bulgaria in the quarter-final, we all knew who we were supporting.
Everyone in England was an honorary Bulgarian.
They weren't expected to do anything, but they did have the scariest man in football, Trifon Ivanov, a man only his mother and horror film fans could love.
I must say that if anyone who wants to be a footballer, they're a real inspiration to a bunch of hairy, beardy, weirdy deformities.
Before the tournament, Bulgaria had a 100% record in the World Cup of never winning a game. Germany were reigning champions and usually won everything.
Little Bulgaria were seen as just another stepping stone to bigger and better things.
And within the blink of a Klinsmann dive,
A penalty is given.
the Germans were ahead.
And he scores in the corner.
Germany already had half a towel on the semi-final sunbed.
They're cruising it, and then the unthinkable happens.
Stoichkov. Yes! Bulgaria have equalised, and they're back in it.
Then, in a refreshing show of German inefficiency, they forgot the golden rule of football. Never underestimate a team whose names all end in V.
Yankov. Let's go! Yes! Oh, look at this!
For baldies around the world, what an inspiration. This man generated so much power. That bald head flicked across and got enough power to beat the German keeper.
The holders are out of the World Cup. Bulgaria pull off one of the shocks of recent modern football in the World Cup.
The fact that they get beat off some little minnows like Bulgaria just makes it all the more sweet, doesn't it?
The whole world was cheering for Bulgaria.
Darker shame, darling, darker shame. Thank you for all the joy and pain.
We love Bulgaria. Good old Bulgaria.
Coming up, a sense of fear.
I'm just thinking that I want this to go over.
A sense of relief.
When you watched that, you thought, I might give it a go next time I'm playing football.
And a sense of humour. Now this is a famous one. It's one of those things where everyone remembers exactly where they were when they saw it. Pete, where were you?
I can't remember.
David Seaman was one of England's greatest ever keepers in 1998. However, 4 years later in 2002, he was 4 years older and about to do something shocking. The World Cup was in the Far East, Japan and South Korea, that is, not Lowestoft, and we got up at 7:30 a.m. to watch England's quarter-final against favourites Brazil.
Incredible team, you know, extremely talented, technically miles better than we were. And we went into the game believing that if we beat Brazil, we would actually go and win the tournament.
England even took the lead.
Michael Owen for England, it's a great chance, and he scored!
You think, oh my God, we're beating Brazil. This could be our moment.
But after a Rivaldo equaliser came the moment that had England fans choking on their cornflakes.
I can remember as soon as he hit it, I tried to move one way, realising that it wasn't going to be a cross, trying to get round, and then thinking, this is going to be close. I know I'm in trouble with my feet, so I know I'm not going to get to the ball. Now I'm just thinking that I want this to go over.
Yes, or maybe you could just jump.
Oh, and Seaman's been beaten. It's a goal. He scored direct from the free kick.
I could hear it clip the bar on its way down, but then straight away, the rustle of it hitting the net as well. You know, and you wouldn't think you'd be able to hear it because of the crowd or the noise or whatever, but when he hits the free kick over, everybody goes quiet. You know, so I could hear it, and that's the worst noise ever for a goalkeeper, is the ball hitting the net.
Well, jump then.
Nothing the keeper could have done.
Except jump, perhaps?
You know, Dave Seaman Nobody expected that to happen.
In the biggest game of his life, Seaman had forgotten how to jump, and England were heading out of the World Cup.
It was difficult because me and Rio got dragged into the drug testing room with, would you believe it, Cafu and Mr. Ronaldinho himself. And the guy that's put you out has scored this freak goal, is basically sat there gloating. And you know, and you just want to whack him.
For David Seaman, though, there were very different emotions.
I can remember getting to the halfway line and then looking down and I just saw all the England fans, and then I just got like so emotional. And it's only from pictures and the footage that I've seen that David came up to me, Sven came up to me, Ray Clemens came up to me, and I couldn't tell you to this day what they said to me.
Dave, why didn't you jump?
David Seaman took it personally. You know, he blamed himself. None of the players, not one of the players, blamed David Seaman for what happened.
I was just in my own zone and just gone. You know, I was just devastated. It will always be there for the rest of my life.
At number 39, it's the game so shocking, it even has its own webpage. Look up the Battle of Nuremberg on Wikipedia, and you don't get tales of World War II. You get the details of a colourful 2006 World Cup match between Holland and Portugal.
It was a horrendous game. It was horrendous. It was niggly.
The referee's trying to calm things down.
It was bitchy.
That's a sending off offence in its own right.
And I think that now stands as the record as the most bookings and sendings off in any one game.
It was a record-breaking mix of nasty fouls, playground play acting, and a card-happy Russian ref. Valentin Ivanov dished out 16 yellow cards and sent off 4 players, making it officially the dirtiest World Cup match ever.
Has there been a match like this in World Cup history?
Incredibly, there was, on average, a booking every 5.5 minutes.
It was just embarrassing to watch, but also gripping at the same time.
Deco has to walk, and that is plain stupidity. Has the referee got a grip of this game? Scolari thinks no. And Van Bronckhorst is dismissed. And I'm afraid that brings a rather sordid end to a steamy and very unpleasant evening in Nuremberg.
Oh, and by the way, there was a goal. Not that there were many teammates left for Manish to celebrate with.
The players, after that, should look at themselves and be hugely embarrassed.
Yes, you bad boys, go and sit on the naughty step. Footballers are always getting into trouble for doing silly things with their tackle. But in 2002, American substitute DeMarcus Beasley took this to a whole new level.
It's modern-day football, there's cameras everywhere. Did you not think he'd be caught?
Warming up as a sub against Mexico, DeMarcus pulled off one of the World Cup's most shocking tricks.
Just about 25 cameras have all sort of zoomed in and gone, oh, he's feeding his penis down his shorts. What? Oh, he's urinating, okay.
You just start giving it one like you'll do on a night out, ignoring the fact there's a puddle. And he's lunging in a slightly creepy gym teacher way.
It was a real sort of 16th century hand-on-hip lunge urination. You tend to the wild stock while I have a wee in traditional English pose. I'm complete, dear. Time for a flan.
But I'd say 99% of men have never urinated in that fashion. But when you watch that, you thought, I might give it a go next time I'm playing football.
Yeah, I think I got away with that one.
Richard, when are we going to get to see my goal?
Peter Crouch!
Later, Peter, later.
Croatian football legend Slaven Bilic is one of the game's nice guys.
Bilic is a really nice bloke. We all like Slaven Bilic. We all think he's very cool. He plays in a band. Really nice bloke. But I bet Laurent Blanc doesn't think that.
With Croatia trailing France 2-1 in the World Cup semi-final in 1998, Blanc and Bilic were involved in a scuffle in the box.
The referee's not happy with that. He wants it retaken. There was some scuffling going on in the penalty area, which he spotted.
Bilic goes down as if his head's been hit. The referee buys it. Blanc takes the walk of shame.
Blanc was sent off for the first time in his career, but the real shock was about to be revealed by the replays. He'd hardly touched him.
Imagine in the World Cup semi-final being sent off for someone feigning an injury, for someone grabbing their feet and drop. I mean, it was horrendous.
Blanc was off, but justice was done as 10-man France won the semi-final. Despite the whole world being able to see what happened, FIFA refused to lift Blanc's ban. There would be no final for either of them.
Blanc handled that with dignity when you think about it. Can you imagine being suspended wrongly for a World Cup final?
Current Chelsea assistant coach and part-time Uncle Fester impersonator Ray Wilkins did something no English player had ever done at the 1986 World Cup.
And a red card has been shown to Ray Wilkins.
When Ray Wilkins got sent off, we thought it was something of nothing.
The Ray Wilkins sending off just seemed completely unnecessary.
At a time when a two-footed leg breaker followed by a karate chop might get you a yellow, the sending off came as a huge shock.
He ends up throwing the ball at the ref. It's an attack on the referee. Pretty serious one, if it weren't for the fact that it looked like it was a right-handed 5-year-old girl throwing a ball with her left hand.
I mean, there was nothing to it at all. It went in the direction of the referee. There must have been some FIFA directive, red card. Wilkins, like...
Back then, it just seemed an innocuous situation where he threw the ball away, and to be sent off was, I thought, was ridiculous.
So England down to 10 men and everything going wrong.
It was the only sending off of Wilkins' career, but for England, it was just the beginning. More of that later. You're being watched by 500 million people, and so if you score a goal, you'd better celebrate in style. But what kind of numpty would try and pull off a ridiculous, rehearsed and contrived celebration? In 2002, a delighted Rio Ferdinand scored his first goal for England.
I got an early goal, which was brilliant, and I'm claiming it. They say it's Rio's goal. How he's managed to claim this, I do not know.
Is that keeper Thomas Sorensen doing his best clown impression?
It wasn't even going in the direction of their goal.
You say you're claiming it, and in doubt in your mind it might get taken away from you?
No.
Very convincing. But what followed was even more clown-like.
Well, if the cameras were on me, they'd have seen me do a little jig.
Unfortunately, the cameras did find him, and it was horrible.
He's the greatest that's all.
That first few split seconds after you've scored a goal, you're just uncontrollable.
He's just completely lost the plot. So he kind of wants to do his dance, and it's kind of just turned into like a little, like, he doesn't know what's going on. He's just all over the gap.
Apparently you've been given the Force a bit of stick for lack of celebrations, haven't you? Were you happy with yours today?
Yeah, I was, to be honest. Yeah, I showed him a bit of rhythm and that, so...
I think the Peckham came out of him there. I think when Rio done that was for the lads at home. Like, yeah, that was for you guys. That was for you guys. So we appreciated that, Rio. We loved it.
Rio's jig also gained him access to a special VIP club of shocking goal celebrations, where Roger Miller shakes his hips, Brazilians shake their babies, and English fans shake their heads. Where this fella's caught in the net, this bloke's caught short, and these guys are just caught looking ridiculous. But of course, none of them are as classy as this. Ireland made their World Cup debut at Italia 90. They were supposed to turn up, play 3 games, have a few beers and go home.
It was like a club team playing international football, and so, you know, we had probably as good a spirit as anywhere in the world, you could say.
And despite a little of that spirit being 40% proof, they shocked everyone and qualified for the knockout stages.
We all thought, right, every game is going to be a bonus, every game is going to be like the World Cup final for us now, and let's see how far we can go. The Irish fans were the best anywhere.
Well, the Irish won the singing about 5-0.
We went out the same attitude of, you know, let's give it a go and let's see where this one takes us.
And where it took them was to the dreaded penalty shootout. It was a masterclass of penalty taking. That is, until Romania's last kick.
Barely a run-up. Oh, and it's been saved!
Ireland just had to score their final penalty to win, but everyone was gobsmacked to see who was going to take the most important kick in Irish football history.
I always wanted to take a penalty. I think everybody was shocked when I was the one that stepped up.
As solid as a rock as he is in defence, he's not the real, you know, your number one choice, is he, to walk forward and bury a penalty.
I always thought I'd love to test myself in a situation. It could be like the last putt in a major and see could you do it all on your own route, relying on teammates.
Come on, David, just knock it in.
It was a long walk. You see the goalkeeper, you see the referee there waiting for you. You're hearing nothing really. You're hearing a stillness of thousands upon thousands behind that goal. Still, everything is in your hands. And step back, take your run up.
Everyone thought he was going to miss.
Ireland! They are in the last 8 and the party can begin.
I see this explosion of green behind the goal. Biggest mistake, standing still. Nearly got killed by all my teammates. My wife had stepped outside. He couldn't watch it. And my son, he was 6 years of age at that time, rushes out and said, "Daddy scored." She said, "Don't be so daft." It was fantastic. It was a great memory.
It's one of the World Cup's funniest ever songs. Scotland's 1978 effort, Ali's Army, a tub-thumping anthem about how they'd win the trophy.
When we win the World Cup.
They went out in the first round. Then, 20 years later, they shocked everyone by going to the other extreme, depressing realism.
Don't come home too soon. That was all we could think of to sum up the hopes and ambitions of the Scottish football team in France '98. Thanks, Delamitri. Thank you.
Just don't come home too soon.
I wanted to write a song that was quite maudlin, that was about, you know, disappointment, and also about the fact that everybody thinks we're shit, you know.
Don't come home, that was it. Oh, we'll see you very soon is what it should have been called.
The song was written for completely honourable reasons, but it was allowed to be used as the official song for completely cynical commercial reasons, which I can hold my hands up and say I didn't stop it.
That was like the longest lyrical suicide note in Scottish football history. It sort of summed up what being Scottish is all about. Just don't be too rubbish.
Just don't come home.
We were kind of forced to have the squad sing on it, and the squad were forced to sing it, and you could tell the squad just couldn't be arsed doing it. And all I really remember is that Andy Gorham is one of the most frightening men you'll ever meet, sitting in front of this sort of ring of players. And after the first take, he just refused to sing and just kind of stared me down. And all I thought was, he's going to kill me. I'm a dead man. I had an old guy come up to me in a pub not long ago and say to me, "Are you the bloke that wrote Don't Come Home Too Soon?" "Yes, I am." And he just said to me, "You should be ashamed of yourself."
2006, a time when Brazilian Roberto Carlos was the best left-back in the world, and France's Thierry Henry was so good he didn't even need to use his hands. The two met in a quarter-final when Carlos did something that lost the game for Brazil, sent them tumbling out of the competition and left him looking like a spanner.
Henry was absolutely at his best, you know. Carlos was supposed to be marking him.
Let's take a closer look. Here is a very good striker. Here is the world's best left-back. Now, what's the last thing he should be doing? Yeah, that's right, tying his shoelaces.
Henry's there! Thierry Henry for France!
What was Roberto Carlos thinking? You're marking Henry, one of the best players in the world, and you're tying your shoelaces.
And watching the whole thing unfold, it was a very simple tap-in for Henry.
Well, a lot of people in Brazil also think, what the hell happened there?
Henry comes round the back post, absolutely unmarked. Straight into the roof of the net.
A lot of people crucified him for that.
It's okay, he wasn't actually crucified, but he did take the blame for Brazil's exit and failure to defend their title. If only he'd gone for the Velcro. We were going to have a website where you could vote online for your favourite World Cup shocks, but unfortunately, Peter couldn't get the hang of the computer. Ask any England player about their quarter-final against Cameroon in 1990, and they'll tell you that the unknown Africans were not being taken lightly. No, sir.
We certainly didn't underestimate the Cameroons.
Cameroon were a very good side.
We knew that they were a very good side.
So we didn't underestimate them at all.
That's the official line, but the footage from inside the tunnel before the game tells a different story. Look at him, it looks like party time.
Plenty of smiles among the England players. They looked very relaxed when they came out.
I think the English players probably thought almost amounts to a bye. You know, it's sort of, let's just play it. We're bound to win. Might be a bit tricky. They're probably fit, but we're gonna win.
Cameroon in that World Cup added a bit of spice and a bit of magic because no one even thought they'd ever win a game or even score a goal.
And soon the expected goal fest began with David Platt's header.
Platts! He's done it again!
Semi-finals, here we come. But 15 minutes into the second half, Cameroon forgot that this was supposed to be a walkover for England.
The referee says penalty.
We gave a silly penalty away.
With a little shuffle, scores!
England were taken aback, and just 4 minutes later, they were taken apart.
Miller makes it look so easy, a kick in! And Cameroon lead!
Now, only one team was going to the semis, and it wasn't England.
Suddenly we were 2-1 down, and to be honest, I didn't think we'd come back from it.
Just look at the expressions on England faces and the reaction in the crowd.
It was one of those you thought, we can't lose to this team. Yeah, we love them, they're great, but we can't lose to them, can we?
They needed to summon the glorious spirit and courage that has run through the veins of Englishmen, from Agincourt to Waterloo and the Battle of Britain. So, Gary Lineker fell over in the box.
Never a more vital penalty for England.
I remember Gary saying to me, he'd never felt pressure like it.
It's all fair! And suddenly the expressions change.
And in extra time, Lineker fell over again.
Thankfully, I think it was Lineker, wasn't it, who scored the penalties and got through that one.
England are in the semi-final.
That really was a relief when we actually, the final whistle went.
Still to come, tears.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Tantrums.
Skill from Garcia.
I lost the plot.
And the disappearing art of defending.
Terrible challenge by Mastic.
There's a boot flying off. It feels like there's landmines going off everywhere.
Back in the 80s, it took a lot more to get sent off than it does today, which makes it all the more remarkable that Uruguayan Jose Batista still holds the proud record of being the fastest sending off in World Cup history. Just 56 seconds into their game against Scotland in 1986, Batista treated Gordon Strachan to a traditional and very warm Uruguayan welcome.
And there is a first indication of how the Uruguayans might be approaching this as Batista brings down Gordon Strachan, and there is a red card. He's off. Oh, what a start. Batista is off.
It was a shock because you used to, in those days, get away with it. The referee would normally have a wee word, and I think we were all shocked when the referee produced the red card.
Strachan's been tackled before. He was a bit of a terrier himself, but he looked dead. I mean, beyond dead. He was comatose, finished, out of the game. He tries to get up in that kind of cartoon way, that he tries to sit up and then he goes, back down again. All that was missing from the end of that clip was wah, 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 wah.
What a lift for Scotland as well, we felt. Great chance against 10 men.
And so it proved, as brave Scotland heroically battled against 10 men for almost the entire match and held on for a momentous 0-0 draw.
It gave Scotland a one-man advantage, which you knew we wouldn't take any advantage of whatsoever.
England, England, England.
Better than the Spice Girls.
Every time England qualify for a World Cup, there is one guarantee. We'll have a truly shocking World Cup song. Ooh, suits you, sir. However, in 1990, something truly disturbing happened. England's World Cup song was actually all right.
World Emotion from 1990. It's got to be the best World Cup song ever, right?
World Emotion is still a great song now. I still get stirred up now. It's an incredible song. It cheers you up. You can't be depressed listening to that song.
You could sort of dance to it. It was sort of quite cool. Love's got the world in motion. It was all a bit hands in the air, kind of the terraces meet ecstasy culture. So the timing of it was fantastic.
New Order, helped by Lily Allen's dad, he's the slightly odd-looking bloke on the right, wrote the record and England stars were all clamouring to take part. Well, 6 of them were anyway.
Of the 22 players, only 6 of us went to do the song. The others were in the pub, didn't even turn up. Because we hadn't known it was going to be with New Order. We just thought, typically, in 86 we did a song and we did an album and it's like, here we go, arms around each other, which was rubbish. And we thought it was going to be that. So when the 6 of us got there, we then saw these other people and we thought, who are these people here doing our song? And then that's when we found out it was, you know, New Order. Their song, we're in it, but it's New Order song, which is a legitimate pop group.
And one ingredient of the song made it a surefire winner.
John Barnes, to be honest, giving a masterclass on how to rap.
You got to hold and give, but do it at the right time. You can be slow or fast, but you must get to the line.
Jay-Z still watches that every time before he goes on a big stage, apparently.
I think we should bring that back. I want to see Wayne Rooney spit some bars. That's what I want to see.
It's a catchy tune, and every time I go anywhere now, people say, do the rap song.
Can you do the rap?
Of course I can. You got to hold and give, but do it at the right time. You can be slow or fast, but you must get to the line.
Yeah, John, we're all right, thanks.
Defend and attack.
Imagine breaking a World Cup record by scoring 5 goals in one game, but not even being the biggest shock of the match.
It is now 5-1, and Selenko has written himself into World Cup history.
Well, that's what happened to Russian Oleg Selenko in 1994, when he was upstaged by the king of the corner flag swingers, our old mate, our very old mate, Roger Milla.
I loved Roger Milla. For 2 World Cups, he just captivated all of us.
By scoring Cameroon's consolation goal, he became the oldest goal scorer in World Cup history. Age, 42 years, 1 month and 8 days.
The old man has not lost the magic. The only thing missing is the wiggle by the corner flag.
I loved Roger Milla, this guy from Cameroon who could score at the age of 107, and I think that's a conservative estimate. It was like a lesson for old people. Between him and Victor Meldrew in the 90s, they were carrying the grey flag, saying to pensioners, you can do it as well. There's always this question that Scottish people ask, why do we never get past the first round? I think the answer is because we're rubbish.
This is less of a moment and more of an eternal phenomenon trundling aimlessly through the mists of time. Yes, it's Scotland's World Cup record of being knocked out in the first round more times than anyone else. 8, in case you're wondering. Yeah, thanks for coming. See you next time.
They've sort of assumed joke status. They are the easy game at this level.
We're maybe the only set of fans that go in expecting to be defeated handsomely every time. It's glorious failure. And when you go with that attitude, anything's a bonus. If we get a throw-in, we celebrate it like a goal. Yes, can't believe it. Another goal kick. This is amazing. We are a very, very inventive nation, and we can find the most creative ways to be eliminated from tournaments.
And Scotland's creative juices were really flowing at Italia 90 to ensure their proud record stayed intact. First, they lost to Costa Rica.
We've never even heard of Costa Rica. We all thought it was some 18 to 30 resort in Spain.
Next, they beat Sweden.
Person got a fling. McCall!
Part of the plan to tease their fans before the crucial game against mighty Brazil.
Picture the scene. Scotland fans have optimism, always a dangerous trait. All we have to do is get a point and we're through. 80 minutes gone, we're doing brilliantly. Had a couple of scares, but we're shutting them out. Then, Brazil hits a long shot, but Jim Leighton's in goal. He's quite good. We're just shouting, oh, Leighton's got this. Leighton's not got this. He spilled it, it's out. He's never going to score that. He's never going to score it. That's in the net. That's 1-0. Oh well, that's that done. See you in 4 years. Thanks guys, been lovely. Cheers Scotland.
I don't think it's so much that the World Cup in Scotland don't mix, just that Scotland and football don't mix. I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, aren't I?
And the crowd in the Azteca Stadium stand to him.
We're here witnessing the greatest player in the world scoring one of the greatest goals.
Yeah, great goal, whatever. The shocking thing about this is why didn't anyone foul him?
We look like we're scared to tackle him. I don't know what it is.
I mean, it's easy sitting there watching, saying, do something.
And you're thinking, bring him down, foul him, bring him down, do anything, kick him, bring him down.
Sometimes it's just difficult to even foul him.
England's players seem to go into some kind of trance.
Someone, pretty much on the whole run, jogs about 2 metres behind him.
That was Peter Reid.
And I don't know if he's just trying to get a good view, thinking, good run. Yeah, this is a good run.
You've got to remember that this was the team that included Terry Butcher, who even back then looked like he worked in B&Q.
In a FIFA poll, it was voted the goal of the century. But England keeper Peter Shilton doesn't really rate it.
I think he only beat a couple of men in the run, but obviously he ran a long way with the ball, which was something that made the goal look fantastic.
And there is a very dejected man.
We've reached half-time, but what will be our most shocking World Cup moment?
It could be Maradona.
Or it could be the Winker. Or it might be that bald Frenchman.
Beckham. Or even Diana Ross.
That could be my goal.
Peter Crouch!
It won't be.
By far the biggest shock in 2002 was that the World Cup was held in 2 countries, and one of them was South Korea, who surprised everyone by giving themselves a shot at a quarter-final place. But Italy would obviously trample all over that little pipe dream.
What a story!
But hang on, they knocked Italy out 2-1 with a golden goal, and in the spirit of fair play and good grace, the Italians cried foul.
It's probably the worst game, and I've had to watch being refereed by someone that clearly had an issue with Italy.
Their talisman Totti was sent off for diving, and the whole of Italy shouted conspiracy.
You saw Trapattoni there. You tried telling him the world's not against him.
Or maybe they were just angry for not trying to fix it themselves. Mamma mia!
So you want me to talk about corruption in Italian football on the television? You've got to be mad.
Personally, I believe that when it came to the game against one of the host nations, that it was in no way an inconvenience for FIFA to have a host nation remain in the tournament.
Yeah, there have been some strange decisions, but conspiracy theories generally come about afterwards.
There seemed to be a strong wind blowing behind them, if you know what I mean.
You mean it was a fix?
Equally, though, we wouldn't be talking about this if Christian Vieri had actually put that ball away just before, 88th minute, the easiest chance of the World Cup.
Oh, right, it wasn't a fix then.
Vieri misses!
Still, Italy got revenge on Korean goal scorer An Jung-hwan.
He was playing for Perugia at the time, and they just decided to get rid of him because he'd scored against Italy and he lost his contract. I think what it's going to be like for the North Koreans this World Cup, because if you make an error and you're in North Korea, you don't lose your contract, you probably lose your family.
And referee Byron Moreno will be taking a huge risk if he ever goes out for an Italian meal again.
The referee in that game's got a lot to answer for, and I wish he came to my restaurant so I could cook for him.
It's important that when you lose, that you take it with good grace and show respect and dignity to your opponent.
Yeah. Or, if you're Argentina, you get stuck into a mass brawl.
It's Germany v Argentina in 2006, and the Argentines had just gone out on penalties. Cue mayhem.
They just went mental and brilliant. Not only have we had a penalty shootout, we've got a post-match fracas. Everyone loves that. So the game's over, but it's not over.
Bonkers. Nailed it. His karate kicked him right in the groin. I've never seen anything like that. That was unbelievable what he's just done.
You know, staff getting involved, coaches, waves of Argentinians sort of like milling, massing around the Germans. It was a complete melee.
Oh, look at this. The Argentines have lost their cool completely. This is awful. This is awful.
No, it was brilliant.
The funny thing was, the directors didn't cut away to the crowd. They just let us see the whole fracas going on.
Let's concentrate what everyone wants to see. It's kicking off. It was great, total little close-ups and heights, and one bloke just kind of jumping, trying to get to people.
The World Cup definitely needs those moments when you get to see a bit of drama, stuff that you're not really supposed to see.
Bonkers. If scrapping Argentines wasn't enough of a shock, perhaps the real surprise was that Jens Lehmann just kept walking. Perhaps fighting wasn't on his list. The World Cup would not work without one vital ingredient: the fans.
There is always this thought about the Tartan Army. Why are we so upbeat, so positive, so hopeful? It's drink.
I think the Irish fans were the best anywhere. I mean, everybody loved them.
There's a lot of wacky fans. You see fans doing wacky things. But for me, the guy holding the snake, the guy has brought a live snake to a game, right?
From reptiles to birds, Colombian and Brazilian, is it any surprise that a great deal of twitching takes place?
There's always the cameraman manages to find the beautiful, stunning model in the crowd. And you think, go on, son.
The fans also help to reaffirm a few national stereotypes.
You get the Brits there, skinheads, a few drinks, bit of sunburn and a flag painted on their face.
But in 2006, the Dutch fans topped the lot with this shocker.
It's a bit like a red rag to the bull.
Dutch beer company Bavaria ignored FIFA's rules on advertising and wound up the Germans by getting fans to wear bright orange lederhosen to matches.
First of all, lederhosen are not supposed to be made from cotton and they shouldn't be orange. So already they're in conflict with the authorities.
Do you know what? The Germans sometimes need to get a sense of humour.
Strict German organisers claimed the branded garments broke the rules and gave the Dutch fans a dressing down.
The German authorities make sure that these Dutch guys lose their trousers.
You see, they have got a sense of humour. But the Dutch fans had the last laugh by watching the Ivory Coast match in their underpants.
I'd be more offended at that. What if you're there with your mum or your granny or something? You've got all these blooming Dutch fans standing there with their little packages out.
And their ballsy attitude was rewarded as Holland took the Ivory Coast trousers down with a 2-1 victory. At number 22, it's a nasty surprise for England.
Just gutted.
Adams, Shearer, Owen and Campbell waiting for Anderton's kick. One or two disagreements, and Campbell!
When Sol Campbell headed a very late goal in the Argentina match in France '98, a famous victory was on the cards.
Enormous kind of euphoria.
I was over the moon, absolutely ecstatic.
And you're celebrating with Campbell, basically.
But the referee had a shocking story.
I couldn't work out what he'd blown for.
But then it gets all of a sudden there's some confusion.
You realise it's been disallowed, and then you go mad.
No, the referee has ruled it out, and he says no goal, and Argentina have already taken the free kick.
They put the ball down and off they went.
With half of England's team still celebrating the disallowed goal, Argentina had the downright cheek to restart the game.
What the hell are they doing? Stop them! They're not allowed to do this. We just scored. What's going on?
I saw the Argentinians trying to make a break on us, and then it was like, yeah.
Just sprinting back. I don't think I've ever tried to run so fast.
And 3 or 4 of the England players were off the field and have been shoved back on, literally, by the England coaching staff.
Luckily, I made a tackle that meant that we were able to get back and organise for a corner. Certainly would have been a terrible way to concede a goal. It absolutely killed me, that last run. I think I come off about 10 minutes later.
That is the best thing that Darren Anderton has ever done. But that's only because he had knowledge that the other players didn't have because they were too busy fawning over Sol Campbell.
When the dust had settled, replays showed that Argentina's keeper had received a shock of his own in the shape of Alan Shearer's flying elbow.
Look at Shearer's right elbow. Well, there was a case for a free kick.
Pete! Quick! What? It's your moment!
It's about 80 minutes into the game against Trinidad and Tobago. We are playing pretty poorly. Crouchy is not having a great game by any stretch of the imagination. He's already spooned a shot off that's nearly gone out for a throw-in.
But then, with the game heading towards a humiliating draw, our Peter came up with a cunning plan to break the dreadlock.
Why should you try to be much taller than you are?
Peter Crouch!
Crouchy, in spite of the fact that he's about 3 foot taller than his marker, has just sort of grabbed the guy's dreadlocks and heaved himself up like you would in a school gym on a rope.
Why should you try to be much taller than you are?
Inexplicably, it was given. The guy's just like rooted to the spot as Crouchy's just heaving down. I mean, I still loved it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved it. Fair play, Crouchy. If you get away with it, go for it.
And hey, he's been scoring ever since, so keep pulling dreads, Pete.
Maradona proved that if you can't win fairly, a little bit of help's always welcome.
Shocking. England's tallest ever player resorting to girly hair-pulling tactics against World Cup minnows. There you go, Pete. Happy now?
Try to be much taller than you are.
What was it? Nothing. You didn't miss much.
Still to come, the good.
That's Beckham. Oh, it's in!
What a great feeling that is.
The bad.
Should have been off a few minutes ago. It's actually his third.
I don't make mistakes like that, or I didn't.
And the ugly.
Oh, he might not run. He can't half score.
I think every Englishman probably laughed out loud, said, I told you so.
Although England failed to qualify for the World Cup in the USA in 1994, several Englishmen did play for Ireland.
To qualify to play for Ireland, you had to have worn green at any point in your life.
The only player, I think, in that team who had any kind of accent was John Aldridge, and he was clear Scouse. And that kind of, qualifies.
All eyes were on us. We're all used to being, hounded by media, but at that stage, everyone wanted to party. It was pretty amazing. It was intense.
And it doesn't get much more intense than having to play three-time world champions Italy in your first game at Giant Stadium.
I shall never, ever forget that day at Giant Stadium. As soon as you got to the ground, it was fast and green.
The crowd was phenomenal, and they made a huge difference to the players. I'm pretty sure about that.
And let's face it, Ireland needed it. This was David versus Goliath's older, harder and better-looking brother. Italy had the best player in the world, and Ireland had Steve Staunton wearing a hat.
Somebody get this guy some Factor 50 straight away.
And where the Italians were looking forward to bringing home the World Cup, the Irish were looking forward to filling their boots in duty-free. There was only ever going to be one winner in this.
Italy were clearly the favourites.
We knew we needed to get off to a good start.
But not one of the 75,000 fans in the stadium, nor any of the millions watching on television, could have predicted the shock that they were about to witness.
Knocked down by Houghton, goes for the shot.
Ray Houghton was so surprised he wasn't sure what to do, so we went for a spectacular Level 1 primary school forward roll.
Probably looks and think, oh my God, what an idiot doing that.
It was a joyous moment for Ireland's Houghton, a man who was born in Glasgow.
Ray Houghton is a Scot anyway, he's not even English or Irish.
And the referee has called for the ball, and Jack Charlton's Republic of Ireland team have their most memorable victory yet.
As far as I was concerned, England beat Italy that day.
If you don't agree that that was one of the World Cup's greatest shocks, don't blame me. He chose that one. Now, here's one of mine.
You can achieve whatever you want in your sport, but one little thing can completely taint your career, and that's all you'll ever be remembered for.
Brazil's Rivaldo will never be remembered for his great goals, fancy flicks, or even the fact he looks like he sleeps in a coffin. No, he'll be remembered for this. Turkey's Hakan Ünsal kicked him the ball, but Mystic Meg Yuri Geller and the entire Question of Sport team would have struggled to predict what happened next.
The first stage, you couldn't fathom. There's a linesman standing about 2 yards away who's just watching it and hasn't said anything as this guy has got sent off for kicking the ball back.
It is a red card.
Oh, that's sad. That's sad. He didn't deserve that.
What Rivaldo has essentially done is taken a decision he's going to try and get someone sent off in a World Cup and just have no shame, no guilt, presumably. I've never spoken to Rivaldo about it. He might be racked with guilt for all I know.
He did kick the ball at Rivaldo, but it did not hit Rivaldo in the face.
It's called Paula Radcliffe syndrome. Like Radcliffe could win 100 marathons, she could break every world record. She'll always be remembered as that woman that did a little piddle in the street. In fact, the only way that he could not be remembered as the guy that clenched his face is if he took a piddle in the street now. That's literally the only thing you can do. Or maybe just a down by the corner flag.
We've now come to a very painful part of the show. For those of you of a nervous disposition, look away now.
I can't watch.
France 98, England Argentina, the last 16.
Yet again, it's going to be decided by penalties.
Our history of penalty taking is pretty well documented. We're not very good at them.
Watching England take a penalty is like watching a small child without armbands learn to swim.
I have no idea why England are rubbish at penalties, and if I knew the secret, I wouldn't tell anyone.
England had gone out on penalties to Germany 8 years before, but when David Seaman saved an Argentine penalty, things were looking good.
Now the limelight, and saved by Seaman!
I've got a picture of me celebrating that penalty save, and and you can see like the joy and like the relief. I can remember like walking to the side, crossing over with the Argentinian goalkeeper, and thinking like, we've got to score now to really push on this advantage.
If England could score, they would heap pressure on Argentina. Up stepped Paul Ince.
And Seaman's save counts for nothing.
Another English player had missed. Hadn't they been practising?
You can't practice penalties. You can't. Well, you can. You can practice taking a penalty, but you will never ever recreate the tension.
We sort of think it's impossible to practice for big match conditions, so we just won't bother practicing at all.
You put that ball down when there's millions watching you. You've got like 60,000 in the stadium. You look at the goal and it just seems to go like that.
By the end of the shootout, it was up to David Batty to keep England in the World Cup. No pressure then, son.
I don't really remember seeing David Batty ever take a penalty ever in my life. What's he doing?
So we'll send David Batty, who doesn't even take them in training because he feels like he might be up for it.
Standing in front of him was Argentina's keeper Carlos Roa, a Seventh-day Adventist who refused to do anything on Saturdays. Unfortunately for Batty in England, the game was played on a Monday.
It's Batty, and he has England again, are out of the World Cup on penalties. It's extraordinary.
It's that moment of, that's it, you're out. This is it, we're out of the World Cup now. Missed a penalty, you're out, you're going home.
Dreadful times. To Argentina as well. Oof.
In 1990, Scotland's Bravehearts were knocked out by Brazil, literally in the case of midfielder Murdo McLeod, who'd got his face in the way of a Branco Thunderblaster.
He hits a free kick and decks a Scottish player, I think it's McLeod.
He was poleaxed. It was like taking a nuclear bomb in the face.
A lot of people in Brazil started saying afterwards that, well, maybe he killed that guy. That guy's dead. And in school, I remember my friends say, yeah, that guy's dead.
No, I'm still here to tell the story.
If only he could remember it.
Eventually, when I get back onto the feet, I still didn't know what I was doing and who we were playing against or what way we were shooting.
Not that it would have really made a difference for Scotland.
Well, people always ask me, did it hurt? I still don't know, because I don't think it hurt, because I don't remember anything about it.
Poor Murdo, but from that moment on, national hero. We love you.
We want to get loaded, and we want to have a good time.
For 8 years after his wonder goal against England, Maradona lived the high life, literally. He was banned in 1991 for 12 months for drug and maybe fashion-related crimes. There were rumours his career was over, but somehow he got back into shape and into the Argentina squad for the '94 World Cup in America.
He was back. We love a comeback. He was back on the ball. He looked great. The old Maradona was back.
Yes, he was back. And in a match against Greece, he showed the world he still had the old magic in him.
Maradona!
But his saucer-eyed celebration got the world thinking, hold on a minute, what else has he got in him?
He was like screaming, bug-eyed into the camera.
It's like being attacked by a rabid dog or something. His eyeballs are just ridiculous. And You can almost smell the barbiturates or whatever. You think, what is going on here?
In the next game, totally randomly of course, Maradona was selected for drug testing after the match.
Right, if you're a drug tester, let's test the guy going,
Perhaps the drug testers saw that and thought, we'll have a little chat with our mate Diego afterwards and just give him a little test and just see. It's not often you see a player frog marched off the pitch by a nurse. But Maradona managed it.
He must have melted the cup, whatever he had to pee into. I would not want to go anywhere near. It's probably still cooling down now somewhere in the laboratory.
Maradona duly tested positive for ephedrine, a performance-enhancing drug illegal in the USA but readily available in chemists across Buenos Aires. He was kicked out and banned for 15 months. Adios, Diego.
Revenge is a dish best served cold. I think every Englishman probably laughed out loud and said, I told you so.
Well, he might not run. He can't half-score.
He was sent home in disgrace and would never play for his country again.
We want to get loaded, and we want to have a good time.
But they did make him manager, though. See you in South Africa.
Peter, are you any good at free kicks?
No, not really, but I know a bloke who is.
England manager Glenn Hoddle made some strange and shocking decisions at the 1998 World Cup. First of all, he dropped Geordie genius Paul Gascoigne from the squad. Hoddle didn't feel Gazza was in the right shape, and at England's training camp he broke the news, which he didn't take well.
I think it was probably due to the fact that Hoddle was playing Kenny G that Gazza was going out of his mind.
Yes, the visionary Hoddle decided to soften the blow by playing the relaxing, smooth jazz of America's premier saxophonist. No wonder he flipped. Hoddle then had another bombshell for our other superstar, David Beckham.
He had played in every single qualifying game. We were all getting excited just how he'd perform in the World Cup. And then Glenn Hoddle goes and leaves him out the first 2 games.
Glenn was adamant that it wasn't the right time for David Beckham to be playing in the World Cup.
What do I think Hoddle's head was doing at the time? Nobody knows what Glenn Hoddle's head is doing at any time.
So after consulting his crystal balls, Hoddle dropped golden balls, and England lost. What a balls up. So, after tucking into a rather large slice of humble pie, Hoddle recalled Beckham for the deciding group game, played in front of England's hardcore travelling fans.
He certainly had the spotlight on him and didn't disappoint.
And it was Colombia's defence who got a real shock as Becks popped his England scoring cherry.
I would imagine David Beckham, sort of range he would fancy.
That's Beckham! Oh, it's in! The supporters celebrate a splendid goal.
There's a magnificent free kick.
It was one of those, you know, let out a little bit of wee moments that you have in your life.
I got a great view of the free kick. You see the ball stroke, it's on its way, and then you see it ball to the net. What a great feeling that is.
And the biggest achievement of it as well, compared to all of the other Beckham free kicks, is he had to curl it over Valderrama's afro as well, which is good, but also makes you think that's a great way to defend. Just like have Valderrama in your wall and then Jedward on either post. You're never going to concede a goal.
Practice makes perfect, and it's the perfect momentum for England now.
The world took notice of David Beckham that night in Lyon.
Well, what a thoroughly impressive game this young man has had.
Grandpa was the best in the world. He was close to getting the World Cup final.
Yes, he was. Well, unless England's top ref dropped a massive clanger in the crucial 2006 match between Australia and Croatia. But that would never happen.
It was, wow, great, a test. A chance for me to prove that I am one of the best referees here. A chance for me to show FIFA that they've got the right guy for the right job.
But sadly, it didn't work out all that well. In fact, Pole made World Cup history by booking the same player twice and not sending him off.
And Simunic picks up his second yellow card. The red's confirmed. I don't think Graham Poll has got the red out of his pocket yet.
I don't make mistakes like that, or I didn't.
And then 3 minutes later, he showed him a third yellow card, finally remembering the red. Bit late, though.
Up with the yellow card, and that was it. My fate was done.
He was meant to be our best referee, and he did that. Like, imagine what our worst referee would have done on the World Cup. We'd be like, oh, what's all the commotion? Uriah Rennie's made the Spanish team play in their underpants because they turned up in the wrong kit.
What about the fourth official and the linesman? I think they must have known, but they just want to make Pole look like a...
It was a calamity that cost Pole his reputation, his dignity, and the World Cup final.
I just felt that I needed some space and time, and I walked back on the pitch. I was dressed, got my FIFA suit on, and I went back into the centre circle because I knew my tournament was over, just to almost look round and wave goodbye to World Cup football, because that was it.
He looked like a man out of his depth, and we all loved it.
And he'll always be mocked for it, rightly so.
I went up to my room and shut the door, locked it, obviously many, many tears, and I found myself sitting on a window ledge, and I'm looking down at these Australian boys partying, and the contrast in moods couldn't have been more different. And I just thought, again, you look back at it and think, God, if they'd looked up, I wonder what they'd have thought.
Jump?
And it was all yellow.
Orlando, Florida, 1994. It's 105 degrees in the shade, and Ireland are losing 2-0 to Mexico.
And it's a long, long way back for the Republic of Ireland now.
It wasn't so much the sun, it was the humidity on top of it. It was really close, and the sweat was pumping out of it. They were used to the heat. They were used to the humidity.
Desperate to try and change the game, striker John Aldridge is ready to come on as a sub.
I went to go on, and the fourth official put his hand across me and said, basically, you're going nowhere, which I couldn't understand.
Confusion between the officials over the substitution paperwork meant Aldridge wasn't allowed on.
With 10 men on the pitch, put 2-0 down in this humidity and this heat, I lost the plot. And then the words came out, species, they all come out.
I've sworn a few times. Right, what bad words haven't I said yet? Oh, there's another curse. Even Gordon Ramsay watching it would go, that's too much swearing.
Words came out that I didn't even know I had in my vocabulary, you know. I completely lost it. I was nearly fighting with him.
He'll be off before he's on if he's not careful. I can understand his frustration. He wants to get involved in the action, but this isn't doing him any good.
Poor Jack, he got involved. They fined him $12,500. When I seen it, I just had to put my head in my hands and thought, oh no, you know, when you make a blunder like that, you don't want all the world to see it, you know, on a vast number, billions upon billions of people.
Aldridge is ready to go. That's the understatement of the day.
It was just pure football and pure man from the British Isles abroad going mental on a holiday. It was great.
At number 12, it's one of football's most tragic stories.
For me, the most shocking moment.
It was a real shame for Baggio. I think people remember that more than how good he was.
No, it isn't the most ridiculous ponytail in football history, although that was pretty shocking. It's Baggio's other World Cup blunder. Every World Cup has its star player, and in the USA in 1994, that man was Roberto Baggio.
Baggio in '94 is the standout figure.
Roberto Baggio! He scored 5 goals in 3 knockout games.
Baggio! Still Baggio! He's gone wide!
It was all about Baggio. It was a one-man show, and he was absolutely on fire.
He dragged Italy kicking and screaming to the World Cup final. He was amazing that year, and you thought, this is it. It's tailor-made for him.
And so, when the final went to penalties, it was Baggio who had the chance to be the biggest hero in Italian football when he stepped up to take the final penalty of the shootout.
And all the pressure now on Roberto Baggio, who has to score.
When he stepped up to take a penalty. You just feel like it's a given he's going to score.
The man who really has brought the team to the final now has to save them. And it's over the top. Brazil have won the World Cup of 1994.
He sort of popped his pitching wedge on and I look up at the sky and just leant back and just hoofed it over.
He fired it over the top. In fact, I think that ball's still travelling.
Italy's greatest player for decades misses the most important kick of his career.
But what a way to lose.
I suppose in some way serves him right for having that ludicrous sort of rat of a ponytail.
What's the first World Cup you really remember?
Italia 90.
Oh yeah, Gaza, Lineker, Klinsmann, Pavarotti
and Massing.
Who?
Benjamin Massing, the man with the amazing tackle.
Cameroon made a big impression on the World Cup in the opening game of Italia 90.
Cameroon were a very physical side, very strong.
And they had some very, very tough players, as Argentina found out.
They had a carefully thought out tactical plan to deal with the reigning champions. They'd knock 7 bells out of them. First, midfielder Karna Biik was sent off for kicking Kanidja. Then his brother bulldozed a winning goal.
Omembiik. Oh, and he scored!
They even tried to take out Argentina's fans.
Did it actually strike somebody? I think it probably did.
But most shocking of all was the World Cup's most perfectly synchronised foul, starring man mountain Benjamin Massing. Well, it was GBH, really.
Koundé pulls out of the challenge. Not a good one by Ndeep. Referee allows him to go on. Terrible challenge by Massing. Take me out!
Kanidja, like a young, innocent gazelle, sort of sprinting down the wing, giving Argentina half a chance of an equaliser. One Cameroon player just flies across, just misses it.
But Massing didn't.
And he just clattered into him.
There's a boot flying off. It feels like there's landmines going off everywhere.
Do you really want to hurt me?
And then he gets up and goes. Aside of the dancing at the corner flag, they were pure evil.
We're into the top 10, but what will be our most shocking moment of the World Cup?
Maradona!
This wasn't fair. Dad, this isn't fair. Why is this happening?
It was a full projectile gob.
Rijkaard spat on Voller as he walked past him.
I could have just put my foot through the TV.
Look at that. Has he just winked there?
Peter, which country has had the most World Cup defeats?
Mexico.
The most draws?
Germany and Italy.
The most wins?
Brazil.
Which country has gone out on penalties more than any other?
Is that a trick question?
Penalties are what a way to decide like the fate of a team's World Cup.
In 1990, England went out on penalties because they weren't very good at them. In 1998, they went out because they weren't very good at them and hadn't practiced them. But in the 2006 quarter-final against Portugal, things were different because we had players who were good at them and we'd practiced them.
You see Frank Lampard step up and you have the kind of confidence, you look down the rest of the list and think, OK, where are the potential misses going to come from?
Oh, he saved it!
Well, him for one.
That's a shocker, because even West Ham fans wanted him to score.
Next, Liverpool's penalty ace Steven Gerrard missed. Still, Jamie Carragher, who was only brought on to take a pen, scored. Oh wait, no he didn't, he had to retake it. And he missed. The only reason we managed to score one was because Bayern Munich's Owen Hargreaves had spent 7 years playing in Germany.
He's done it! Portugal are through, and England are out of the World Cup.
I hope they lost sleep. I do hope they lost sleep in them multi-million-pound bedroom sides.
England had failed again, but at least they'd set a new record. Most penalties saved in a World Cup shootout. Good work, boys. John Terry and England were going home, but he did find the time to congratulate clubmate Paulo Ferreira and maybe ask where his wife was. Was it bad luck? Was it bad technique? Or can we somehow blame the wags?
Get the worst players to take them. That's what you need to do. Get the worst players to take penalties, yeah? Because history proves that the best players always miss.
America, land of the free, home of the hot dog, and inexplicably, the venue for the 1994 World Cup.
Personally, I don't think the World Cup should have been in America. They don't like football. They call it soccer.
I guess it was slightly controversial that America got the World Cup in '94 anyway, because you're a bit like, they don't play football, why are they? Fine. But then you think, they put on a good spectacle.
And what a spectacle the opening ceremony promised to be. There were balloons, there were people in traditional costumes, there was even Diana Ross. What could possibly go wrong?
I remember that being absolute farce.
Motown's answer to Frank Lampard made a lung-busting run the length of the pitch, whilst at the same time, amazingly, singing without moving her lips. Weaving her way through hundreds of dancers dressed as God knows what, she reached the edge of the box and steadied herself in front of goal.
It's about 5 yards, I mean, and the goal looks like a bigger than average goal as well to me. I mean, it's really stacked in her favour. She spoons it horribly off to the left.
I don't know whether Waddle had been coaching Diana Ross when she took that. Wow.
It all just sort of carries on. They just carry on like, yeah, that went pretty well, guys. Oh, yeah, carry on. Yeah, keep singing, that's fine, that's fine.
We've got used to seeing outrageous diving in football. But back in 1990, it was as foreign to us as drinking in moderation.
I think 1990 was when the diving became really prominent, and it was blatant, and it was people throwing themselves to the floor.
And nobody was throwing themselves more creatively than Germany and their striker Jürgen Klinsmann.
I think the Germans probably really did start the diving culture. They turned it into a trade, didn't they, where it was an art almost, a sick art in my opinion.
Klinsmann was doing triple salchos. He wasn't just going down slightly easily. He wasn't being nudged and it's a foul and he wanted to prove it to the referee. But these triple salchos and the kind of extra movements that he put into it were just embarrassing.
Klinsmann gets brought crashing down.
He didn't realise that it was a problem. He felt he was doing his job as a striker, which is either to score or make sure that your opponents get sent off or you win a free kick, or if you can do both at the same time, even better.
Deception is part of football. And the Germans were just first to get there, I think.
But of course we would never indulge in such antics, would we?
Did Michael Owen dive against Argentina?
Yes.
Possibly. It's open for debate.
No, it's not, because he did it again.
(1990) semi-final. What minute? Listen, I've told you not to call me at work. Here's my mum's favourite World Cup shot.
In 1990, one man played his way into the hearts of the nation.
I think everyone fell in love with Gazza in that World Cup.
It was so exciting to actually have a player as good as him.
He was just that crazy, idiotic Geordie lad who, everyone's got a friend who's a bit touched, and he was everyone's friend who's a bit touched. He was traditionally British, he was mad as a March hare, but he was a genius.
The lovable Geordie was the best thing to come out of Newcastle since coal. The carbon-based fuel, not Cheryl. And he'd taken England to a World Cup semi-final.
Gazza was on fire in that tournament, and that match he was on fire.
Not literally. But like most things in English football, it was all about to go wrong and end in, well, tears.
And in the end, the German bench get up and protest at Gascoigne's last challenge. He has actually, Gascoigne, got a yellow card now. Oh dear me. He's going to be out of the final if England get there. And here is a moment that almost brings tears to his eyes.
The nation's collective lower lip went all wobbly as we watched a grown man lose the plot.
You can see that the Gazza that we know is now going to explode because he starts to bubble up.
You could see him starting to well up. Gary Lineker pointing, have a word with him, have a word with him. All that.
It's not often you see that on a football pitch, not that kind of emotion, not raw emotion while a game's going on.
And it wasn't just a little tear, it was just his whole face went red.
Every man watching that thought, this is great. Watching it saying, here we go, he's able to let go, express himself and show that he does have emotional capability. No, we didn't. We watched it and thought, what, pansy? What are you doing, mate? Just get on with the game, help your teammates to the final, none of this crying nonsense. But I tell you what, keep that up, you might get a crisp advert. And you too, Gary. Have a word with him.
The funniest thing which I just found out, when he kicked Thomas Berthold, Gazza went down to, console him, we thought. He said, well, when I kicked him, he said he was screaming. And only Gazza would think this. I thought to myself, if the referee hears him screaming, he's going to book me. So he said, what I was trying to do is I was trying to squeeze his lips to stop him screaming. So I looked at it again. He was actually trying to reach down and squeeze his lips together.
I'm pretty sure he was saying something in Jordan's like, shut your fat face, you German bastard.
Who would even think of something like that? And that is just Paul Gascoigne through and through.
Nice try, Gazza, but it didn't work. And when England lost on penalties, the waterworks started again.
He was, very emotional, but it doesn't take him a great deal of time to get back to normal.
When the world tuned in for the 1998 final between France and Brazil, a collective gasp could be heard across the globe.
We've just had the surprise news, I suppose the shock news, that Ronaldo will not be in the Brazil 11 for tonight's match.
David, we have to start with the big news that Ronaldo's not playing.
Desmond, I've never had anything like this in my career. The scenes in the commentary boxes for the last 45 minutes have been absolute mayhem and chaos.
In come the team sheets, no Ronaldo. It's Hamlet without the prince. It's the main man's not there.
Early ball from Ronaldo, and here's Ronaldo! Whoa, goodness me!
He was unstoppable.
Right through, Ronaldo!
He was big news, he was big, ugly news.
We've seen, but here's Ronaldo!
He was expected to light up the final, but when he and his team were nowhere to be seen, Motti went into meltdown.
For the first time in the World Cup, Brazil have not come out to warm up on the pitch.
It's all a bit sinister.
It was the World Cup's very own X-Files moment, but instead of Mulder and Scully, the BBC had Hill and Ginola.
It could be an argument going on in the dressing room, which has caused the problems that John has sort of half suggested.
It's a big news for the French team because Ronaldo is very, very important for the Brazilian team.
After they failed to shed any light on the situation, there was a further twist.
Suddenly, the officials are coming around with more sheets, and Ronaldo's back in it.
For any players in the world.
David, I'm just going to interrupt you there because news has just come out that the biggest wind-up in World Cup football history has just hit the news because Ronaldo will play.
Ronaldo played, but he and his Brazil team had a shocker, and France won 3-0.
Zidane!
After the game, conspiracy theories started. Had Brazil's sponsors forced him to play through the pain barrier?
A lot of people said that he went on and he played because of certain sponsors.
Had his girlfriend dumped him?
He did look like he was a player who'd been jilted, actually.
Was it in fact Emil Heskey in a Ronaldo suit?
It does amaze me the lengths that players will go to.
Well, in fact, the truth was far stranger and more shocking than any fiction.
In the afternoon, in the hours before the final, Roberto Carlos wakes up with Ronaldo having seizures. He goes running to call the team doctor and the other people because he thought the guy was actually dying.
When Brazil's players took to the field, there was real concern for their star man.
A lot of the players have said, listen, we were terrified of him having something on the pitch. Roberto Carlos was actually afraid of Ronaldo dying.
I don't think Ronaldo was any different from the rest. I thought they all played like they'd fainted that morning.
Next up, it's a real sickener. Indeed, Peter. A right little winker.
In 2006, England had a chance of winning the World Cup, and his name was Wayne Rooney. However, in the quarter-finals, there was another player as good as Rooney, but he played for Portugal, and his name was Cristiano Ronaldo. They were teammates back in Manchester, the best of friends, although they made a very odd couple.
You've got a friend.
They were made for each other. It's so good because I think they're just completely the two polar opposites of men. Like, one of them is the modern metrosexual complexion of an air hostess, and the other one is this big ginger ball of testosterone. Like, one wouldn't look out of place in a trendy bar in between a Cosmopolitan and a copy of Vogue. The other one wouldn't look out of place on a wall chart in between Homo habilis and Homo erectus.
You've got a friend.
But at the World Cup, friendship was put aside, even before the match had kicked off.
He knows Wayne Rooney, and, you know, he's told his mates and whatever, you know what I mean, we can get him.
With the scores at 0-0, we were all hoping that Rooney was going to squash Portugal's tender dreams. But instead, he tried to squash Carvalho's tender parts.
Under the nose of the referee, and there's a bit of angst going on here. These Portuguese players are pushing Rooney.
The referee, if you look at it, wasn't going to send Rooney off. It was only when his Manchester United teammate, Cristiano Ronaldo, came along, and he was all like this, it was all like this, he was like, send him off, send him off.
And the referee has gone to his pocket, it's red!
These guys, they know what they're doing, and he knows Rooney's weak spots. He knows what's going to make him tick. He knows what's going to get him sent off.
Did the Portuguese try to wind Wayne up? Maybe. Did they get him sent off? It's a fact.
Ronaldo had betrayed a friend and sent England out, but far, far worse was to come.
The wink was like, you know, I got him. Do you know what I mean? But I felt like he got me too. Do you know what I mean? Like, we all felt like he got us.
I mean, I absolutely couldn't say what I was shouting at the TV.
Everyone in the room was fuming. They were just like, I can't believe he's done that, oh my God.
I could have just put my foot through the TV. He winked. He winked.
It even got the boys in the studio worked up.
Look at that. Has he just winked there?
Please tell me no.
I think there's every chance that Wayne Rooney could go back to the Man United training ground and stick one on Ronaldo.
Oh, no.
But while the nation worked itself into a lather, Ronaldo didn't see what all the fuss was about.
I say, referee, this is its fault, but I don't say red card because Rooney, it's my friend.
Whatever you say, Ron.
Yeah.
Although we might like to think we are, we're not Germany's biggest rivals. It's this lot.
Holland-Germany must be I would say, the most bitter rivalry in Europe.
Germany-Holland has been a grudge match for a long, long time.
And their clash in Milan in 1990 lived up to its billing. Even the ref got involved.
And he's determined to stamp his authority, isn't he?
Probably one of the worst, ugliest scenes in World Cup history. The shirts are ugly, The haircuts are ugly. The facial hair is terrible.
But even more shocking than that was what Dutch midfielder Frank Rijkaard did to German striker Rudi Völler. Following a little playground spat, Rijkaard came back with a spit.
Did he spit at Völler as he ran past? Was that my imagination? Let's hope so.
It was just one of the most disgusting things I think that's ever been caught on camera. It was a full projectile gob. It's absolutely gross.
There is no worse way to insult a German than to spit in his mullet.
Well, there is. You do it twice.
Well, there was no doubt about it then. Rijkaard spat on Völler as he walked past him, and that, Bobby, is atrocious.
The mullet was so thick, it takes Völler a couple of seconds to actually realise, I mean, he's spat in my hair. I thought he was going to kill him. I thought at that moment he was going to kill him. Then he saw how big Rijkaard is and he thought, nah, well, spitting is horrible, but spitting in a mullet, Vorsprung dog, not good news.
What's that, Pete?
It's the hand of dog.
Poor, Peter. Very poor.
All right, it's the paw of dog.
No, here's the hand of God.
The 22nd of June 1986, and the Azteca Stadium in Mexico provides the backdrop for what nobody can deny is one of the World Cup's greatest ever shocks.
It's a bizarre moment, really, but I always remember the big shadow.
The big what?
The star-shaped ball. This star-shaped shadow in the centre of the pitch all the time in the main stadium, and thinking, where's that come from? How have they managed to do that?
It was in fact a piñata, a traditional Mexican decoration on which the organisers hung the stadium speakers, presumably for announcements such as, "Look out, he's going to cheat."
The Hand of God goal was singly the most ridiculous goal of all time.
I mean, I just remember being absolutely gobsmacked by it. This wasn't fair. Dad, this isn't fair. Why is this happening?
Just minutes into the second half, Argentina's Diego Maradona shocked the world by proving that he was an exceptionally handy player.
Why did you do it? Why did you do that thing?
Everyone saw the hand straight away. I mean, on the bench we all saw it. As Peter Shilton went to punch it, we saw him go up and we saw his hand come up and we saw him flick his head but his hand, and we saw him run away, but people do that. He looked back when he ran away expecting the free kick.
The big thing from his point of view was obviously the fact that he celebrated as though it was a legitimate goal.
And we just thought, well, the referee's going to give a free kick.
Millions of people all over the world saw what happened, but sadly not the person who mattered most.
It was the first time sort of on live TV with a worldwide audience that someone had blatantly cheated.
Was it a use of the hand that England are complaining about? Well, certainly his arm was up. Peter Shilton protested immediately.
Sometimes things happen. It's inexplicable how on earth a referee could miss that.
We just couldn't believe that the referee or the linesman didn't see it.
It's just sheer frustration that the referee and the linesman hadn't done their job properly, hadn't seen it, and that in a World Cup quarter-final was just unacceptable.
On the subject of people not doing the jobs properly,
I don't know how Peter Shilton gets outpunched by a midget.
He was the man of the tournament. He was the guy that you should really know, and you should know he's not that tall.
He leapt like a salmon. He outleapt Shilton. It was incredible. How did this happen? You know, he's 4'3". Maradona!
Afterwards, Maradona said it was a little with the head of Maradona and a little with the hand of God. But England's players and fans were left wanting to give him a somewhat less divine bunch of fives.
Maradona should have got a punch in the face from somebody on the field.
Peter, tell me honestly, would you ever do anything as nasty and low-down dirty as that just to win in South Africa?
Oh, yeah. Don't worry about that.
Good. I was hoping you'd say that.
It went crazy. I didn't think that it would go that... I mean, I knew that people wouldn't be happy, but I never knew that it would go that bad.
There was almost rioting on the streets. It was really quite ugly for months afterwards.
He should never have done it. He should never, ever have done it. He should never have kicked out. And to be fair, he's cost us the World Cup, hasn't he?
In the summer of 1998, one man stood above all others as the most hated in England. He wasn't a murderer, a serial killer, or even Piers Morgan. But when David Beckham got sent off at the World Cup in France, it was such a shock that in the eyes of an angry nation, he became public enemy number one. England-Argentina in France 1998 was sizzling hotter than a Buenos Aires barbecue. And when Argentina's Diego Simeone attempted a one-man spit roast on David Beckham, he responded in the way that any self-respecting bleach-blonde midfielder should, with a girly flick of his leg.
I couldn't see what had happened, you know, and I can see Simeone falling over, but then like really play acting. I was thinking, no, just get over here.
Despite the kick being about as vicious as a loved-up butterfly, the ref saw it as violent conduct and sent Beckham off.
And a red card for David Beckham.
Yeah, it was a bit stupid and a bit crazy straight in front of the ref, but let's face it, it didn't actually do anything to him.
It was a petulant little flick, and it certainly, I don't think it should have been sending off.
When I saw it on TV, I was like, he got a straight red for that.
Simeone had pulled out the oldest trick in the book of old tricks and Beckham fell for it. Wind him up with a nasty dig, wait for him to react, and then put on a frankly ridiculous show for the ref.
It was interesting, it happened 2-3 minutes into the second half, and you wonder if the team took at half-time from the Argentinians was get into him, you know, because he's starting to dictate the pace of the game.
The night just got worse for Beckham and England. They lost the match and there was only one person to blame.
But a mad moment by David Beckham probably cost you the game at the end of the day.
It's cost us dearly.
I was really disappointed in him. You selfish, you idiot, you kid.
If he didn't do that, I reckon we would have gone through.
The David Beckham effigy was literally the worst effigy I have ever seen. And I'm not an expert on effigies, I've never made an effigy. It was like a crash test dummy with a David Beckham shirt on it and a sarong. Didn't even put on like a little wig. All those pants that he wears. If you're gonna make an effigy and you're gonna threaten a man's life, at least have the decency to go out and get the required materials and put in the time and the effort to render an effigy that looks like the guy you're threatening. Because that was...
As for Beckham, well, we didn't hear much more from him. If the World Cup proves one thing, it's that anything is possible. The only thing to expect is the unexpected. On the greatest stage of all, villains can become heroes and heroes can turn to villains.
It's time for number one, the most shocking World Cup moment of all.
It was the evening of July the 9th, 2006. The air seemed charged with the promise of seismic electric passion. No, nothing to do with Savannah and Ulrika. This was the World Cup final between France and Italy, and 750 million jaws around the world were about to simultaneously hit the floor.
I remember watching that with my mates and honestly turning to each other. We could not believe that had just happened.
I must admit, my heart dropped. It was just a pub I was into, utter silence. No one knew what to say. You were like, wow.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, yeah, you can't believe actually happened, but it did.
The match was the grand stage for Zinedine Zidane, one of the greatest footballers ever, to take his final bow.
The stage was set for the great man to make a great exit, and it didn't quite end like that.
Zidane scored an audacious penalty. And then, with the scores level at 1-1, came a moment so shocking, the powers that be won't even let us show it.
You can't excuse that. Zidane's career ends in disgrace.
He's just lost it for no discernible reason and in front of so many people, and just nutted him.
I found it
absolutely unbelievable that such a career that involved so much elegance and art should end with the kind of thing that someone might do in a pub after 10 pints of lager.
The planet reeled in shock, and then began a giant game of Chinese whispers.
He must have said something horrendous, you know, just out of order, inexcusable to provoke that reaction.
I knew that he'd said something really horrible because Zidane's face changed, and it could have only been something to do with his family.
The other story is that there was a rumour about Zidane and some unpleasant personal business that had taken place in Turin when he was at Juventus, and that Marcello Lippi, who was manager of Juventus at the time, said to Materazzi, mention this to Zidane and just see what the reaction would be. And we did see the reaction.
In his farewell game from the sport, on the biggest stage of all, Zidane had capitulated. Italy won the World Cup on penalties, but the match will always be remembered for a moment of madness.
I don't feel sorry for Zidane, and I don't feel sorry for the French, because that won us the World Cup.
But there was one final sad, shocking and epic moment as Zidane did the ultimate walk of shame.
That vision of Zidane walking past the World Cup trophy as he exited the pitch is iconic now.
The best player in the world at the time walking past the World Cup that he should have won but has just thrown away because he's nutted a guy is a very arresting and powerful image.
But it's over now.
Cheerio then. So that's it. Up until now, those are the greatest shocks of the World Cup.
And there'll be more soon.
Another tournament's worth of drama and glory and dreams, and maybe this time...
Richard, stop. Don't say it.
But Peter, would it really be such a shock if we could... Shh.